everybody. It's Tanner down here at Western Motor, and for today's Around the Block, we have KIUL Operations Manager and Morning Show host, Bill Bernardoni.
Tanner,
good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too.
So we got a special treat for you today.
Yeah.
We're both big guys.
Yes,
You know
very,
this.
yes.
So we have a 2020 Chevy Silverado RST. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
This is awesome.
We're turning the tables on you.
I know it's weird. I've been interviewed a handful of times, but not very often. Not very often. It's new for me.
Well, so you're coming up on a year now at Steckline
weeks
Communications.
away.
Yeah, just a few weeks away.
Yep.
So kind of give us your impression of this new job of yours here in Garden City and at KIUL. How are things going?
It's going great, honestly. It couldn't be going any better, honestly. Theron and Greg and Bobby and Joey and everyone have been great to work with. Greg Steckline, our owner, based out of Wichita, has been wonderful. Theron's been absolutely outstanding. They kind of give me free reign over the morning show, which is exactly what I was looking for. A lot more flexibility with what I want to talk about and what I'm passionate about than the last place that I was at, which I loved as well. But the last place was very structured, and I didn't have a lot of freedom to do what I wanted.
Creativity.
Yeah, where I can use my creative juices, so to speak,
Right.
and can talk what I want and have a little bit more openness to be a little bit more open with my own thoughts on stuff too.
Okay.
Which is good, and I really do appreciate that.
Which kind of dovetails into our second question, I think, which is, you've had, when we took a look at your background, you've had jobs in a lot of different areas,
yeah,
right? You've bounced around a little bit. I mean, certainly something I can empathize with. But how did you end up at KIUL in Garden City specifically?
I was a little uncomfortable with job security at the last place. At the last place I was at, given the economy and given everything in Illinois was shut down completely and totally. I decided it was time to look. We were at a time, my wife and I, where it wasn't as daunting to move, and we've moved a lot, all over the country.
You're pros then at this point.
We're pros. We're pros at this point. Honestly, the deciding factor for me was being able to call professional baseball. Was the wind, and that was a big thing for me, and also for my wife. My wife, as listeners of my show will know, has worked in the mental health profession for a very long time, and the pay down here is honestly, surprisingly, and I think surprising for a lot of people, is a lot higher than it is in Illinois where we were at. So
We desperately need those services, Bill.
Yes.
yeah, talking with everyone, and like even over the weekend at various events that I went to, eyes light up every time I say my wife will be in MSW in a few months. It's very, very needed out here, as I have learned.
And we need a voice, we need a good voice on the radio out here too.
Yeah, no, they've had a lot of good voices. Joey did a great job, and there's been a lot of good hosts on KIUL over the years. We've been very blessed. I'm bringing something a little different to the equation, I think.
Broadcasting obviously is what you're doing out here.
Yes.
And you have a minor in radio communications, but you majored in college in political science.
Yes.
And so you were in politics, worked in politics for about a decade.
Yep.
Tell us about that experience and tell us why you decided to get out of it.
I've always loved politics. My grandpa was born on the 4th of July and is the most patriotic person I've ever met.
Well, he had to be.
He had to be born on the 4th of July. So the love of politics, it certainly didn't come from my parents, who just despise politics. Just absolutely despise it. But it started out as a love of history.
Well, a sense of history comes in handy in a lot of different ways.
Yes, very much so. And so that's where it started. And then as I got into high school, because I wasn't the best student, because I ADHD, surprise,
Sure.
listeners will be surprised to know, not really, that you have some ADHD that I have struggled with, and some other issues. I had an IEP all throughout school, so I struggled with test taking, and so I was involved in everything. And so I got involved politically at school and high school, and had a former congressman, Jerry Weller, my congressional district, that I got to know a little bit, and that's kind of where it started. And then it just kind of evolved from there.
You probably had a lot of experiences, so give us some of the highlights.
So my first campaign is probably the one I'm most proud of. The first candidate I worked for, and not just as a volunteer. I was still in college at Olivet Nazarene University, and helped elect a somewhat controversial figure in Republican politics right now, Adam Kinzinger.
Okay.
Who is who's a friend, and I haven't talked to him in quite a long time, but he's someone I still consider to this day a friend. I used to work with Mike Huckabee's organization, HuckPAC, when I was in college.
Okay.
And basically, you name an Illinois Republican politician, I've worked with them. Pretty much, in a nutshell.
What kind of made you decide, I need to do something different?
The stress of the job. To be honest, it's one of the most stressful positions there is. Politics, extremely stressful. Finances, when you're working and you're on a campaign that's funded, you're making good money.
It's not the most stable job.
It's not. There's no stability at all. Like with one of my clients, I was going to run a statewide campaign and had moved back to do that, and then he decided not to run, and that was $80,000 a year job that went away and didn't have anything to replace it with.
Constant change.
Got
to be flexible and adaptable.
Yep. And so because of that, and because of, honestly, and listeners won't be surprised to hear this, just where the party was headed. It wasn't a place that I was real comfortable with. It was time for a change, and I've always loved broadcasting. It's always been a passion of mine ever since high school. And speech team in high school, that's where I fell in love with it first.
You dabbled in podcasts, and you produced literally thousands
of hours of podcasts.
Some for individuals and some for yourself. Talk about how you got into that. That's so interesting to me.
My first job out of college was working for Talk Radio Network out of Central Point, Oregon. The syndicator used to be the syndicator of Michael Savage, Laura Ingram, Jerry Doyle, Rusty Humphreys, Mancow. And so I worked with the syndicator with a bunch of those hosts, and I stayed in very close contact after I left, after the year I was there, with the producer of Michael Savage. And have stayed in very close contact with him over the years. He's one of my best friends. I talk to him every week. We still do work together to this day. And after I left politics, him and I talked, and I was like, because he was going through a transition at the time as well as I was, and we worked, and we started working together.
But we're talking, Bill, like you didn't start podcasts like we would consider them now. Like podcasts are kind of an everyday thing. This was back when podcasts weren't done frequently, right?
Yeah, no, that's right around when we got our start in it was that where we built podcast networks for companies and podcasts for individuals as well. Yeah, we've been doing it for a long time. It's been a lot of fun, and we still do it. We still do it to this day.
Give us an idea of some of the ones that you've produced.
So we put a network together for the Hill newspaper group. We worked with the Heritage Foundation a little bit. We have a podcast and radio show right now that we syndicate ourselves. Actually, it's on about 12 stations across the country, and it's a podcast that gets 80,000+ downloads a year. It's a sports psychology. It's with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Andrew Jacobs, based out of Kansas City, who is was the first sports psychologist for the Kansas City Royals, and he's a sports psychologist for a number of the Chiefs players as well.
That's probably pretty fascinating.
It's very fascinating. It's wonderful, and he's a dear friend, and love working with him as well. And we've done podcasts for NFL players, comedians, numerous people. We did a podcast with Pfizer.
I did happen to listen to a couple of episodes of Dabble with Ben.
Oh God, that's I haven't done that in a long time. Yeah, I talked to George Will, which was a lot of fun. George is one of my favorite people as well. I could talk baseball. I did talk baseball with George for quite a bit. That was just kind of a passion thing.
That was a fun one.
It was just for fun.
That was a fun one, and you had your daughter, I believe, was on your little intro.
Yep, yes, I had Reagan on the intro, because I have a studio at home. I still have a studio at home, and just some. I work with someone out of California, and every once in a while, she'll be like, "Hey, you want to talk to XYZ?" And so occasionally I'll put something out there, but usually, I haven't done anything with that in a long time.
Now, Bill, you're from Ottawa, Illinois,
yes,
which is not far from Chicago.
Nope.
So that explains your love of certainly the Cubs, not the Sox.
No, God, no, God, no, not the Sox. No, my dad, no.
The Bulls, the Bears. Talk a little bit about what that was like growing up, and particularly a really seminal time for Chicago sports teams. Oh my God,
growing up in the '90s with the Bulls was so much fun. It was so much fun, and so I've always had a love of basketball. And after they were bad, and after they were torn apart by Jerry. After they were torn apart by Jerry, I kind of went away from them for a while, because then the Bears got good in the early 2000s under Duran.
But did you watch a little Bulls when our man, Captain Kirk Heinrich, was playing?
Oh, heck yes. Captain Kirk was the man. And so I've always been passionate about sports. The Cubs and baseball is my first love.
That's every northern Chicago / suburb kid's team, right?
For the most part, I'd say the Bears are the number one team in the state and the number one team in the city.
So it's a Bears town.
It's a Bears town, 100%. 100%.
More so than a Bulls town.
More so.
The baseball
overall
teams,
overall 100%. Now, right now, it depends on what team is the hottest right now, and right now the Bulls are
pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good. Beating the Lakers shorthanded yesterday. But in terms of baseball, it's a Cubs town, but overall, it's a Bears town. My first Cubs game I went to was the Cubs-Cardinals doubleheader in the early 90s. Watching Sandberg and Dawson and listening to Pat and Ron on the radio, and it's just and 2016 will always mean the world to me. That was
Yeah.
It was a wonderful year, and
One of the coolest ballparks out there. Wrigley.
the coolest ballpark
yeah,
out there.
You're
Period.
right off the L. You're right off the L stop. You know, you go right down into Wrigley Town. It's cool.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
super
It's I always get chills going in there, and I've been there probably 75 times over the years.
So you've seen some things.
I've seen some things I love, and it comes from my dad, just love of baseball. My little brother played and was pretty good, and so just have always had a passion for sports and baseball. I played football a little bit.
Bernardoni sounds kind of like a baseball name, really.
A little bit, yeah, I can get that. Yeah, a little bit like a baseball name.
Now, we understand that you're a fan of the show Breaking Bad.
Oh, I love it.
Which, you know, we share that with you. You know, who's your favorite character in that show?
Ooh, it's gotta be.
I mean, there's some layups here, Bill.
Yeah, there are
Be
some.
a purist with us. For a
There
moment.
are some layups. Yes, it's got to be Saul. It's got to be. It's got to be
yes.
Saul.
Yes.
So good that he's on the best TV show now.
I've seen it. Not exaggerating. I've seen it all the way through 6 times.
Oh, wow.
I've seen it all the way through 6 times.
That's a dedicated fan. So what drew you to Breaking Bad? What just really drawn you?
Oh man, Netflix. I think like everyone else, when it first came up on Netflix and I saw Bryan Cranston, I didn't watch it when it first came on the air. I picked it up on Netflix just because I love Bryan Cranston. He's one of the best actors alive today. Malcolm in the Middle was my jam. It was my show growing up. It doesn't get any better than that for me, and so I started watching it, and immediately I was hooked. Immediately, I have a 10-minute thing where news shows I give 10 minutes.
If it doesn't hook,
If it doesn't hook, then I turn it off, and I was hooked immediately.
So did your wife watch Breaking Bad with you?
Oh yeah, she loves it just as much as I.
See, I
just as much as
wasn't sure. My wife watched it with me as well, but I wasn't sure she was going to like it. So it's just like, okay, this is a little bit of an experiment here, but she liked it.
Yeah.
shifting gears a little bit.
Just a tad.
Yeah. It's like a full 180. So as somebody who's new to the community, I mean, what have been your impressions? Do you have anything that has impressed you? That what do you think about the community?
The passion that the community has to help people.
Is this a roundabout?
It is.
What is that all about?
This
Wait
is
a minute.
brand new.
Wait a minute. I got to talk to Matt about that tomorrow. They roundabouted out here? I know they were doing something out here, and they're going to put a $250,000 new turf in there.
It's an interesting place to put one.
Yeah, like they were talking about the roundabout over at Marion 156.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which KDOT said, you know what? How about we put a roundabout here after all this work that was done for the stoplights, and then come in at the last minute with a roundabout. There's no.
I can think of a few other places around town that need them, but anyway.
5 points, Matt Allen. Come on, if anything,
That's
better
breaking
than,
years and years of tradition.
and
there.
anything at 5 points is better than what's there now.
So what's your
despise-
impression of Garden City, Bill?
I love
Particularly as a member of the media.
So the passion that this community has to help people and to help the nonprofits and the love that this community has and like in supporting like the Wind, like every game without fail, and there were a lot of home games this year.
Yes.
Oh man, were there a lot of home games this year. The passion that the community has to support the Wind and to support the high school and to support education, and how, and this word gets a bad rap because of politics, but how progressive minded this community is in regards to supporting hey, we want to do this. We want this to be able to at the airport with the taxis. How progressive minded this community is. How supportive this community is in terms of being open to growth and being open to change. Has been wonderful. But honestly, the biggest takeaway, and something that I'm still not used to, is the smell. I was.
It doesn't matter how progressive we are. It's something that can't be avoided.
No,
some
it
things
can't.
don't change.
No,
some things can't change.
I was raised in agriculture. I wasn't raised on a farm, but I've spent a decent amount of time on farms, but I will never get used to that. Period. I will never get used to that smell. It's not something that I will ever be accustomed to. That no matter how much time I've spent on farms in my day.
Before we take you back to the studio, though, we would be remiss to not talk about this new segment that you have on Mid-America in the Morning, where you bring these crazy car dealership folks on to talk about things going on at Western Motor. We've really enjoyed it.
It's been great.
We want to hear kind of from your perspective what your impression has been about these first couple of months of having us on.
It's been wonderful, and as I said when we started talking about this, and when I brought it up to Tanner before we even started talking about this, I was raised local radio, 1430 WCMY. You had car dealer, you talked with car dealers, and it was just it was enamored into me. It was this is what you do. You talk cars, you have car dealers on. It's just what you do. And at the last place I was at, had a similar relationship with a dealership. And so when I got here, it was one of the first things on my agenda that I wanted to get accomplished, and excited that we were able to, and it's been great. These are crazy times in the car industry, just unbelievably crazy times in the car industry.
Speaking of unprecedented, right?
We've sounded a little bit like a broken record on the show every week.
Completely unprecedented times in the car industry, and to be able to bring the information, like, okay, here's what's going on, here's what's happening, here's how we can help. To be able to do that on a weekly basis has been tremendous, and also one of the best parts about it has been, to be perfectly honest, has been the experience that you guys have. 20 plus years, mostly for everyone that's been there, that you don't see that.
Right.
And that says everything you need to know right there about Western Motor is you have that stability.
We have sure appreciated the opportunity. I know that all the folks that have come on, and we try to bring in some different faces, different voices, from week to week, and I think they've all enjoyed it. I always enjoy my time on there. Yeah, it's been great.
It's been great. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I just thank you for trusting me with it. It really has been a blessing. It really has been, and I'm forever grateful.
All right, Bill. As you know, part of being on the show,
yes,
part of the perk,
yes,
is that you get a sweet treat. Now, you, like all good Italian boys, are a fan of tiramisu.
Yes, it's my absolute favorite.
Well, love this then.
You'll love this, because Brett went down and found some tiramisu.
Yes,
it's not as easy to find in Garden City.
No, it's not. And to Dylan's, if anyone's at Dylan's is watching this, pancetta, please, pancetta, please. No, this is outstanding.
Enjoy that.
I will. My wife and I get this regularly.
Well,
regularly.
Good.
It's quite good. It is quite good, and really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
It was a lot of fun, and being on the other side of the interview was fun for us. So
strange for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We look forward to having you back, and we look forward to talking to you again soon
Yes.
on our radio segment.
Yes. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.
And have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
Have a Merry Christmas.